Good morning. My name is Charlotte Pasco. I'm the Dean of the Health Science Division, and I talk to all health students about 3 subjects. One is the criminal background checks, which we will discuss first, then the drug testing, and then academic integrity. Everybody should have received a packet with information about the drug testing. The first packet is a real thick one, and for the distant students, that will be in a file for you to pull up and read. It gives the whole explanation of the policy. Now, I will leave that up to you to read that. If you read it and have questions, you can come to my office, which is B4, or call me, and I can answer your questions. Like I said, it's the entire college policy on that. The second form that you have is the criminal background check. Criminal background checks are not done because we want to know what you've done in your past. They are done because our clinical affiliations have a contract with us, and that contract states that I certify that our students are not criminals, they're not drug addicts, and they don't have bad behaviors. So I have to keep all of those records, and I'll tell you right now, all criminal background checks, drug testing are kept in my office for 1 year. If you go long, some programs are longer than a year, so after that year, if you're still here, you will sign what is called a self-disclosure sheet. If for some reason throughout the time that you're with us, you have a legal situation that happens, you will have to disclose that. That's by law, we have to disclose everything. So you'll need to come to my office and say, I got arrested for something, or you did something and you had to go to court and pay a fine. If you don't self-report, then that could be grounds for losing a license, a certificate, or registries. And a lot of your accrediting bodies, when you're doing testing, have to certify that you've had a clean criminal background check. Now, not all of us have clean criminal background checks. Some of us may have something on it, but we don't get too excited about some of the things. There are certain things I get excited about, and you will hear from me. On the first sheet with the criminal background check, it asks, where have you lived for the last 10 years? Well, I have a lot of students who are military and travel around. If you cannot remember the exact address, put the city, the state, and possibly the zip code if you can remember. If not, just put the city and state. They can find whatever they need to find on that. The other thing is this statement requires Social Security number, okay? Please write your Social Security number very legibly. I've had several incidences where 3s have looked like 8s, 4s have looked like 7s, and I've gotten a criminal background check back, which had a rap sheet of 27 pages, and the person came in and said, I've never been arrested before in my life. It was because of the wrong Social Security number. So please write that very carefully. And again, I want to let you know that nobody sees those criminal background sheets but me. So that Social Security number with your form and on the report is locked up. And after you graduate, I hang on to them 3 months because sometimes people come back and want copies of them. But if you do not come back and ask for a copy, they are shredded 3 months later. 1 quarter I hang on to them. Everything is shredded. Now, by law, you can have a copy of your criminal background check. So if you want one, you come to my office. We need a picture ID, some type of identification, state ID number, and you will be given a copy of your criminal background check, okay? Criminal background checks are paid for through special fees, so you've already paid for them because it was attached to this class or a class. I don't know which one it was attached to. So you don't have to worry about paying out of pocket for that. It's taken care of. The next page is the abuse registry. So there's 2 parts to this. The abuse registry, the same thing, it'll ask for a Social Security number. Please make that legibly. And then it asks for 20 years of residency. Okay? I have a hard time remembering what happened last month, more or less 20 years ago. I couldn't remember an address 20 years ago. I could tell you where I lived probably, and that would be the best I could do. And that's all we ask is the best you can do. Now, sometimes an infraction happens where you go to court and you have to pay a fine, and then something will go on your abuse registry. but it's an offense that isn't considered abuse. But in the beginning, it was. If something like that happens, I will look at that, and you will receive a letter from me that states, I have some questions about your criminal background check. Okay? And I ask that you respond back to me very quickly so that we can take care of it. If you have something on your abuse registry, you can have it removed. It's called expungement. Okay? It can be removed by going down to the DHHS office, filling out the proper paperwork, and showing court report papers that it was taken care of. And I'm just going to give you an example. I had one incident where someone was in a hurry, needed to get milk for the baby, drove into the parking lot at Quick Shop, left the baby in the back seat, ran in and got the milk, came back out, and in the meantime, a police officer was writing her up. Okay? She got a ticket for child endangerment. Went to court, paid a fine. The state investigated it. There was no abuse. It was just a law that says you don't leave your children in the car. So she paid the fine. It was on her record, which is nothing that would keep you from going to school or your clinical sites, but it still was on the abuse registry. Okay, so we did all the paperwork, 30 days it came off. So if you have something like that, I suggest you go right down to DHHS and take care of it. However, there are some situations where actual abuse has taken place and children have been removed from the home because of endangerment. Hospitals will not hire people with abuse registries like that. So if we do have things like that, then you and I will have a conversation as to what we need to do. I've had a few cases where they would not allow a student in clinical, so there's no sense in proceeding on in your profession. So we looked at some other areas that this person could go into. Okay? Like I said, once you get these papers filled out and have taken them to my office or sent them to my office, for face-to-face students, you take them to B4. Rose or Alyssa are the secretaries there. You need to present a picture ID. Probably your driver's license would be the best one. And they will look it over, make sure you've signed it, and then just check you off and say, okay, we've had your paperwork. It takes about 6 weeks for all the paperwork to come back. If there's something there that I question, I will call you. Or get a letter comes out. Then you can call me and set up an appointment, or you can just stop in the office. If I'm in the office, come on in and we'll talk about it, okay? And I'll tell you right now, students freak out when they get a letter from me. And it's not that you've done something really bad, it's that I just need clarification on some things. Some people have marked down, no, I've never had an offense, because the question says, have you ever been arrested or convicted of a crime? Well, speeding tickets, well, they're crimes, but you're not arrested for them. Unless you don't pay your fine, then they've got a warrant out for your arrest. There's some things that you may have forgotten. Some things I see is people will mark down, nope, never had anything. They were in a park without a sticker. Got fined. That's a misdemeanor. We don't think of things like that. And it happened when they were 15, 16 years old. It still shows up. MIPs as minors in possession, a lot of lawyers will tell you they don't show up. Yes, they do, unless you've done diversion. If you've done diversion for anything, they will take them off your cases. The other thing that will show up is if you've had to go to court and you've presented all the evidence and a judge says, nah, I'm not going to waste my time with this, it's considered a non-conviction. Okay? I do not look at non-convictions. I cannot do anything with those, so I just mark them off, no problem. What I look for are patterns of behavior of drug and alcohol abuse, okay? If I see that you had MIPs for 3 months in a row and then you legally turned 21 and then you had 3 months of DUIs, to me there's a pattern of behavior. And hospitals normally will not hire people that have patterns of behavior like that. One of the suggestions is that you may be asked to go do a drug and alcohol evaluation with the State Department. Okay? Things that may keep you out of clinical are bad behaviors. Abuse will keep you out of the clinical. Open court cases. So if you have an open court case and you don't go to court, let's say till December, I cannot allow you in a clinical site with an open court case. I need a conviction of some kind, whether it's thrown out or you paid the fine. So those are some things that would keep you out. Federal convictions for drugs, weapons and arms, guns, if you've been selling guns and have been in prison. Some other things we've looked at, and I have to tell you that our clinical sites are pretty good about some minor infractions. There are some professions, however, that once you graduate from the program, you have to go to the licensing board. Now, I can allow you in the clinical sites if the clinical sites say okay. And I can tell you right now, if I have a question, I will call the clinical sites and say, hey, I have this situation. Would you allow this student in your facility? And they've said yes, no problem. However, your board may not be as forgiving as the clinical sites. And I have had some students that had to wait between 6 and 18 months in order to get a license because the board wanted to see their behavior, pattern of behavior improve, or they had to go through more testing. So those are some things that will keep you definitely out of clinical. Like I said, I haven't had to do too many of those. The other thing that will keep you out of clinical is if you're on probation. And I'll just tell you a little comical story is I got a letter from someone that was in the federal penitentiary. They're getting out here in December and they would like to start a health program and they're going to be on probation for 15 years. And they wanted to know if they would be able to get into a health program. Well, I said, no, I didn't. We wouldn't allow them because of the probationary period. And they said, well, my conviction was just for forgery. And I thought, well, doesn't matter what the conviction was for. You served your time, which is fine. But anybody with probation, I cannot place in clinical. And again, I haven't had that situation. Oh, you would be surprised the things I see coming through criminal background checks. One other thing I want to tell you is that as of July of 2014, if you are caught public urinating, you will now be placed on the sex offender registry. That may keep you out of clinical. So that and drinking is something we look for as employees. I know students like to, well, not just students. Everybody likes to go out and have a few drinks or party. Not surge tech students, no, okay. Well, okay. La La Land over there. So my suggestion to every class that I talk to is if you're going to drink, make sure you have a designated driver. And if you're out at the bars and it's closing time, always take the opportunity to pee before you leave. So you won't put yourself in those positions. Okay? If I have a criminal background check that I question and I'm worried about placing you in the clinical site, like I said, I will call the clinical sites and then I will visit with Sharon and I will say, we have a problem. Is there another clinical site we could move you to? And then I will make the call to another clinical site. And I've had that happen, and another clinical site has been very nice about moving a student over there. So that is the time when I would talk to your instructor or your program chair. I would never talk to your instructors. Now, some students are not afraid to raise their hand and say, I have this conviction and this conviction. That's up to you if you want to talk about your criminal background. I do not want to know any more than I have to. Your instructors don't want to know. So they would just prefer not to answer any questions. So if you have a question, you may go to Sharon or your instructor, or your program chair, and they'll go, no, go talk to me, Charlotte. Okay? Do you have any questions on criminal background checks? Yes.
Okay, sorry, I was just confused. So if we do have like a traffic ticket, do we mark yes or no?
Very good question. Traffic tickets. Most of the time they will not show up because you just get the ticket, You write out your check and you mail it in. They don't show up, okay? My suggestion is if you're not sure about anything, mark yes. I will send you a letter and say, guess what? Nothing showed up. Now, if you mark, no, I had nothing, and I get a rap sheet 27 pages long, then I have to decide, are you lying to me, or do you not know what a conviction is? And you'll get a letter one way or the other. But most of the time, speeding tickets won't show up. And if you do get a speeding ticket and do diversion or driving classes, stop classes, it doesn't show up either. Okay? Yeah, I know. I'll tell you another story. I was 3 months into my job as being the dean, and we had a meeting in Milford. So I got the school car, and 4 of the deans, a couple of them were late getting there, so we were going to get late. And I was driving a school car going a little faster than I should have been, and I got picked up by the police for speeding. Well, here's 3 of us in a car, school car, had no idea where the registration is, so we're fumbling for that. The police officer thought we were nuts. So I got a speeding ticket. I not only had to disclose to my state licensing board that I had it because I'm a licensed individual, I had to report it to the vice president of instruction and the campus or the college president. That was my first 3 months on the job as dean. So don't be embarrassed about anything because I've seen it and done all of it myself. So, but very good question. Any others? Okay, moving on to the second topic, and that is the drug testing. This is fairly new as of July 1. Our affiliation agreements, our contracts with our clinical sites have said everybody has to be drug tested. Not only students, faculty. Faculty have to do drug testing. They have to do criminal background checks, and every year they have to do disclosures. So it's not just students that get it. I have to do the same thing. Okay, so we're not picking on anybody. All health people, even part-time people. Mandatory drug testing, they are looking at the 5 panel. We have a company here in Lincoln called Company Care that will do the drug testing. What they ask is that you call, make the appointment. Don't all converge on them all at once because it takes a few minutes to do what you need to do. And the paperwork that I've given you, you have to fill that out and bring that with you. When you get there, they will ask for a urine sample, and you will do that. What we found out is they don't watch you. People were worried about being watched. You have to take everything out of your pockets. They pat you down, make sure you're not carrying any other urine with you. And what you'll do is provide them with a specimen. And what they do is take this specimen, they will take the temperature of it, okay? It has to be body temperature. Then they will save a sample. And the reason they save that sample is because if there's a question on your specimen, they will send it out for further testing, okay? Now, don't get excited if something goes out for further testing. That could mean that you are on a prescription, which is legal. And it shows up as an illegal drug. So then the medical review officer will call you and talk to you, and they'll say, are you on any prescription drugs? You provide them with that information, no problem. If, once you're done with that, they fax me the results, and it just says negative, or sent to the lab for further testing. I don't get excited about that because that just means they're being a little more thorough in the drug testing that's being done. If the further testing shows positive for illegal drugs, then I will get a phone call. And that phone call will say they tested positive for marijuana, opiates, barbiturates, whatever drug it was that showed up. Then you will get a call from me to come and visit with me because I cannot legally allow any student to be in the program, more or less in a clinical site that tests positive for drugs. Okay? We have done over 362 drug tests, and I've only had to drop 1 student from a program. And I think those odds are pretty good. A lot of questions on, well, my neighbor smokes a lot of marijuana and I can smell it through my apartment doors. Will that affect me? Not necessarily. Now, if you're over there smoking with them, yes, it will. Some of these drugs stay in your system for up to 90 days. So some people think they can stop doing that till they get their drug test. It's going to show up. It's going to catch you. Okay? But there have been some incidences where the mom had their tooth pulled and they had Tylenol with codeine on it, and I hurt my finger, so I thought I'd take the Tylenol with codeine just to get over the pain, and then I forgot I had a drug test. That is an illegal drug. It's not your prescription, and so if that happens, you've just wasted your whole 18 months career. Now, that doesn't mean you can't come back the next time the classes are offered. We just don't say you're out of class forever. However, if I have a student that shows positive for illegal drugs, I have to report it to the State Department if they hold a CNA license or any other type of license. So it will hurt. They are getting stricter and stricter in the hospitals, in a lot of the employment surgical centers on drugs and alcohol. The cost for this, I'm sorry to say right now, comes out of your pocket. It's $35. And your program chair will give you a certain date when you need to have those done. They are automatically faxed to me. Again, they are put in with your criminal background checks. And after you graduate, they are shredded. Now, if we suspect that you are doing drugs during the program after the initial drug test, then the college also has another policy that says if we suspect drug use or abuse, we can randomly drug test you. That would be on us, the cost. Okay? So if we think you're acting goofy, it would have to be pretty goofy. Yeah, I was just going to say, because I act goofy a lot, and I know some other people who act pretty goofy that we just wouldn't do drug tests. Well, maybe we should. I don't know. Any questions on drug testing?
Do we have to go to company care?
Do you have to go to company care? The hospitals prefer you to go to company care because that is a registered official DOT drug testing group. However, if you're a distant student and can't come to Lincoln, you can have a 5-panel done at a certified drug testing agency, and I will accept it. Okay? Good question. For distant students, we're working on trying to find centrally located certified drug testing companies that we can contract with. Make it easier for the distant students. Any other questions?
Is it best if they make an appointment?
On the paper it says, please make an appointment. Yes. And I will tell you why. The first 2 weeks that we started this, on Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, I think it was 32 dental students converged on company care. Well, it takes a half an hour per person to do that. They close at 4. So they were all standing out there whining, basically whining. They needed to get this done because the instructor said it had to be done by this time. Well, they called and said, what should we do? And I said, tell them that they need to make an appointment like it says on the paper, and they need to come back at a better time. So please make sure that you make the appointment. Call and make your appointment. I will tell you one other thing. Don't drink a lot of water before you go. Because we had a student nervous about this, and he thought he had to go to the bathroom in front of people, so he was worried about, standing, constricting up. So, drank a lot of water. If you drink a lot of water, it dilutes your urine, and that is one of those signals that somebody's trying to flush their system. So, I would say if you're leaving here, by the time you get there, you should be fine. You should be able to give them a sample. If you're not and can't do the job or the task at hand, they will let you sit there until you feel you're ready, okay? Yes, you have to stay in sight and not leave the premises, things like that. They've got some specific rules. And I'll give you another example here. I had one young lady that went there and could not produce enough. So they said, please sit here and wait. She couldn't wait because she had to get to her job, 3 o'clock job. And so they will mark you down as refused to drug test. So be careful. Make sure that when you go, you're going there with the idea in mind that you're going to fulfill the cup. So there are some little things that happen, so be careful. Any other questions? Yes?
When is this due?
When is that due? Your instructor will give you a due date, December 4th?
December 14th.
14th for you. For distant students, you will have in your packet due dates when they need to be done. Okay, real quickly, I just want to talk to you. How many of you participated in Academic Integrity Week? Okay, a few of you. You knew what it was about and saw the film or little vignette that Dr. Illich gave. Academic Integrity Week is now going to be a yearly project for the college. And it's just an emphasis on doing the best for you and for the college. How many of you work, go to school, have families, boyfriends, girlfriends, pets that need to be taken care of? We all have busy lives. And this is not an easy program, and there's a lot of schoolwork. Yeah, got a raised eyebrow here. Yeah, a lot of schoolwork, a lot of homework, a lot of studying that has to take place. And I always encourage students to get together and have study groups or study buddies or support that you need, tutoring, anything like that. Cheating doesn't pay off, okay? Sometimes it's easy to pick somebody else's work, take stuff off the internet and present it as yours, and eventually you're going to get caught. And the old adage is cheating only hurts you, you're the person that's doing the cheating, isn't necessarily true. Because if I cheat and I get away with it, but didn't learn the material well enough, and I get out in the field, I could hurt my patient. And our number one priority is patient safety, okay? So if you hurt the patient may have to stay in the hospital longer, so there's more money on the patient's part, more money on the insurance part. The hospital may have to pay out more money or something like that for an incident that happens. So it becomes a vicious cycle on cheating. So we don't just cheat ourselves. So I hope you take the opportunity to learn, study, and have support to help you through the program. If you're not sure about something, ask your instructors. They're here to facilitate your education. They're not here to spoon feed you. You have to take the responsibility to learn the material and understand the material. And if you don't understand it, ask. Ask the program chair, the instructor, ask another student. Because what I hear and what somebody else hears may be two different things. And that could be your support group. Okay, so you probably won't be here next year, but if you know the pledge, and you can go to the hub under Academic Integrity and see that pledge, go read it. It's really neat. And the students that took the pledge, I hope take it to heart that cheating doesn't get you anywhere. It just gets you in my office. And the only 3 times that students come to my office is if they've got a bad criminal background check, they've had a positive drug test, or you got caught cheating. And I don't like to talk to students with bad news. I would rather have you come in and say, we're having a good time. And I know Search Tech students have a good time because there's quite a few parties going on sometimes with food and smells. So I would rather have you come in and say, hey, it's Search Tech Week, this is what we're doing. Or we're going to the National Convention, this is what we're doing. Instead of, well, I got to kick you out because you did drugs, you're a criminal, or you cheated. That doesn't happen often, but I don't like to do it. Okay? If you ever have any questions, office is B4. You can call me. For distance students, my number is on your website and in your packet. Thank you for your time.